Hello guys, Bass here, and today I'm going to be talking a little bit about the things that I consider to be important when making an effective healing UI. It's kind of that point in the expansion's life cycle where people are trying out new classes, just with BfA around the corner and obviously the level 110 boost. So I figured maybe this could be helpful for someone that's maybe just kind of starting to get into healing, or someone that's trying to get back into it after a few expansions off or something, because it has changed a little bit. But yeah, we're going to be talking about some things that you can implement in your UI that'll make you a better healer overall. So to start off, the most important aspect of a good healing UI, or really just any UI in general for all roles, is that the information that's important to you is readily accessible. And what I mean by that is your eyes aren't darting around the screen or anything like that trying to find out what you're looking for. All the information you need is right there when you need it. And the difference between, say, a DPS UI and a healing UI is just that the information that you want to have presented to you on command is different. So what is important to you is going to change depending on your role. So if we just pause here and look at my UI as an example, you can see that within a relatively small portion of my screen, I can see a lot of stuff that's important to me as a healer. For example, I can see that the tank is getting the shit kicked out of him and he might die, but I can also see that my guardian spirit is off cooldown and I can throw it on him if I have to. I can also see that I'm not standing anything I shouldn't be, and I can see that another boss mechanic is coming up in 10 seconds and I should prepare myself for that. So even if you were to block off the other 80% of my screen, for example, I would still be able to see pretty much everything I need to see, and I'd be able to play pretty normally for the most part. So like I said, that's my design philosophy when I'm trying to build a healing UI. I want all the information that I want to be right in my face. I don't have to go searching for it. So right now, I'm just going to show you the add-ons that I use to do this for me, and I'll show you how I set them up. Okay, so now that we're in game, I went ahead and unlocked the add-ons I'm going to be talking about here. I'm not going to be talking about all the add-ons I use, just the ones that I think are important for a healer, or may switch a little bit depending on whether you're a healer or a tank or a DPS, stuff like that. So if you have a question about something that I don't talk about, just leave a comment and I'll get back to you. I'll also link all the add-ons that I use in the description, so you can check that out if you want to learn more. But like I said, the main ones I'm going to talk about here are going to be TellMeWhen and raid frames, are the big two, and I'll also touch on boss mods a little bit at the end. So to start off, I'll just talk about the raid frames, and for that I like to use Grid2 personally, but there's a ton of different options. You can use Voodoo, there's tons of different options. I just like to use Grid because I'm familiar with it, I've used it for a long time, I'm just comfortable with it. But whatever add-on you use, I really suggest that you place your raid frames in the center of your screen close to your character. And the reason for that is pretty simple. Just because if they're over here, for example, on the side of your screen, then because you spend so much time focusing on your raid frames as a healer, you might miss other important stuff, like I mentioned at the start of the video, because if they're over here and, for example, you're standing in something, you're probably not going to be able to see that as easily. You're going to have to avert your attention over here away from your raid frames to be able to see what's going on. But if they're close to your character like this, you can really easily focus on your raid frames and see if you're standing in something you're not supposed to be. The only other thing that I wanted to mention in regards to raid frames besides just their positioning is that whatever add-on you use, you want to make sure that it's able to track various healing statuses and buffs and stuff like that. And what I mean by that, I'll give you a quick example here. I think I have to hide these because it won't show properly otherwise. So I'll just hide them quick. So as you can see here, as a priest, I want to be able to track where my prayer of mending is at all times. So I have it set to have a nice big icon in the center of my raid frame so I can easily keep track of where it is. And I can show you how to do that on Grid. I can't show you how to do it on other add-ons obviously, but on Grid it's really easy. All you have to do is go to the statuses tab here in the options, go to buffs, just type in the name of the spell you want to track. So for example, prayer of mending, just type it in, select it, and then once you select it, you go to the indicators tab, just expand it, sorry. And these are all the different places that you can place these indicators. You can put it in the bottom left corner, bottom right, top left, top right, whatever. For example, if I want in the icon center here, you just click it, and then all your created buffs will be shown here. The reason you see some druid stuff here is because I use the same profile on my druid as my priest, which is why that's showing up here too. Sorry, just ignore that. But yeah, you just select it here in the buffs and it'll come up here, and then you'll be able to easily track where that buff is in your raid frames. Next up, I wanted to talk about an add-on called TellMeWhen. It's a really helpful add-on that I really got into using this expansion in particular, and I use it across all my characters pretty universally. I think it's an awesome add-on. And basically all it does, it just helps you track when various things are available, for example, when various spells are off cooldown, and you can use it to track when buffs are up that you want to monitor, stuff like that. So right here in the middle of my screen, I have icons that indicate to me whether or not these abilities are off cooldown or not, whether or not I'm able to use them. And you may be asking why that would be important, like why couldn't I just look on my action bar to see when these are available? And the answer to that is, if you remember at the start of the video when I froze the image of my UI and we looked at what was going on, when I saw that the tank was getting the shit kicked out of him, I could easily see that my guardian spirit ability was off cooldown and that I could use it. I didn't have to look away from the central portion of my screen where all the action's going on. I didn't have to look away and look down on my action bar to see that. I'm actually in the process of getting rid of my action bars. I just feel naked when I don't have them on my screen, which is kind of all that's preventing me from doing it, and I haven't really been able to find a good use for this space on my screen really. So I've just been keeping them on there, but I really don't look at them whatsoever during a fight. I really just monitor these icons here. So I really suggest you try to get to a point like that too, where you're able to just use TellMeWhen indicators or something similar. It doesn't have to be TellMeWhen, maybe weak aura, something like that, but use something that indicates whether or not these abilities are off cooldown or not, and be able to hide your action bars just to free up a little bit more room on your screen. I'll show you how to set up an indicator like this with TellMeWhen quickly. So if we wanted to, for example, track our prayer of mending, we'll use prayer of mending as an example again. If we wanted to track when our prayer of mending was off cooldown, have a nice big indicator on your screen showing us that, all you'd have to do is type /TMW options. If I could type, Jesus, okay, there we go. It'll bring up a screen like this. It might not be this exact screen, but basically just navigate to the group tab, click new profile group, and it'll bring up some new buttons in the middle of your screen here, as you can see. All this stuff, I'm not going to go over it really. There's a bunch of different stuff you can do with it. You can change what role it's visible in, so you can hide it if you're in tank or DPS spec, whatever. You can adjust the amount of columns, rows, so you can change how many buttons are on it, change the X, Y offsets, all that stuff. But the main thing we're going to talk about here is just make sure that you right click on an icon, and then you go to the icon tab here. And these are all the different things you can track with TellMeWhen. You can track different buffs, like I said. You can track unit cooldowns, item cooldowns, spell cooldowns, diminishing returns, all sorts of stuff. But in our case here, if we're going to track when our prayer of mending is off cooldown, we're going to click spell cooldown. And literally all you have to do is just type in here in the what to track, just type in prayer of mending and select it from the list here. And that's literally all you have to do. If you want to change the texture, for example, if you want a different icon here to show besides prayer of mending, you could type that in here. But if we just want, for example, a prayer of mending icon to show, you don't have to literally don't even have to type anything. You can just click and it'll show your icon there. So ideally we'd want this nice and close to our raid frames, like I said, so we'd be able to easily monitor when our prayer of mending is off cooldown. And that's all you have to do to set up a spell indicator with TellMeWhen. Like I said, you can also use TellMeWhen to track when various buffs are active. And to do that, literally the exact same process applies, just instead of selecting spell cooldown, you would select buff/debuff here. Then just like last time, just type in the name of the buff in the what to track window and you're good to go. So I find that it's really easy to get kind of trigger happy with all the buffs you're tracking and stuff with this add-on. When I first got it, I just wanted to track literally everything. And when you think about it, it's pretty dumb to do that. Like, it's just pointless for a lot of buffs to track them. So I found a good way to go about it is just ask yourself, if knowing a buff is active is going to influence your decisions or have an impact in your gameplay, that's when you'd want to make an icon to track it. So for example, I have an icon for Apotheosis because what Apotheosis does is it increases the effect of serendipity and reduces the cost of your holy word spells. So essentially when I see that icon up on my screen, I want to be trying to churn out as many holy words as possible. Lastly, I just wanted to super quickly touch on boss mods, and all I have to say to that is just that I suggest you place them somewhere in the center of your screen with the rest of the important information that we're trying to track. So in my case, I'm using DBM still, I'm old school. If you're also using DBM, just type /DBM options, it'll bring this window up. You can just click move me on the options tab here, just click move me. And as you can see, I have mine just above my character here, so I can easily see what's coming up, you know, what I have to prepare for, if I have to move, while still being able to see if I'm standing in shit currently, and still being able to monitor people's health, see what abilities I have active, what's off cooldown, all that fun stuff. Just sticks with the whole theme of having everything centered and easily viewable without having to search for it around our screen. So with that being said, that's really all I want to talk about in this video. Like I said, I'm not going to talk about all my add-ons, so if you have questions about something I didn't mention, just feel free to leave a comment, ask me about it, or check out the description where I will have everything linked. So with that being said, hope you guys learned a lot, and I hope you have a lot of fun playing your healer. Thanks, guys.